Gravity Falls, a show of humor, mystery, and casual viewing. Unless you're me. My name is Christian. You're probably wondering why I'm dressed as Dipper Pines and about to rewatch the entire series. Rest assured, there's a perfectly logical explanation.
Right, now we'll move on to The Time Traveler's Pig. It's definitely another big episode as far as lore for the show. And the basic premise of this episode is that Stan, once again trying to find more money, basically puts on a mystery fair and, has all these different janky rides. We also get a quick scene at the beginning of Stan telling Seuss that his screwdriver is missing. And Seuss makes a comment of something paranormal may have taken it. And then Stan responds that he's been spending too much time with the twins. And then as they walk away, Blendin Blandin comes and picks up the screwdriver and uses it to fix up his cloaking device. And there's basically two different kind of storylines going on where Dipper is trying to continue to pursue Wendy and try to impress her with everything, trying to do the whole thing where you throw the baseball at the empty milk bottles and then you get a prize. And he tries to do it, but then things go wrong and then the baseball ends up hitting Wendy in the eye and, Dipper's feeling all insecure. Dipper then runs away and then tries to find something that'll help her eye. And then he finds a bag of ice and then tries to run back to Wendy. Then he ends up bumping into Blendin and then drops the ice bag and all the ice goes falling on the ground. And then he gets really upset at Blendin as he tries to frantically scoop up the ice cubes. And then Blendin freaks out and then disappears. And then Dipper thinks it's kind of weird, but then he forgets about it and then goes to find Wendy again. And then lo and behold, Robbie kind of comes to the rescue, gives her a snow cone to put on her eye, and then tries to comfort her and everything, and then kind of uses that opportunity to ask her out. And then Wendy kind of accepts. So then Dipper's freaking out and then trying to figure out a way to kind of get Wendy back. And then on the flip side, we get introduced to another main character named Waddles, who's a pig that Mabel wins in a contest where she has to guess his weight. And we get introduced to another character named Farmer Sprott, who kind of runs the whole game by saying, "Oh, 15 pound, if you can guess his weight, you can take the pig home." And then Mabel's 15 pounds and wins Waddles and has this really good relationship with him. So Mabel's having a really good time with this kind of new love of her life. And then Dipper's kind of trying to struggle to win the love of his life. And then as this is going on, we get reintroduced the character of Blendin Blandin officially, who's part of the Time Paradox Avoidance Enforcement Squadron. I'll say that 10 times fast. Who's basically sent back in time to find a bunch of different anomalies that went on, throughout the series, and then calling back to the different Easter eggs that we got for the first 3 episodes where we see him kind of in the background and everything. Kind of like what Alex Hirsch was saying, about wanting kind of continuity and having different characters appear throughout the series and kind of have everything connect. So we finally kind of get that payoff with that character. And then as Dipper's feeling bad for himself, he looks in the distance, sees Blendin, and then he goes to confront him and then kind of blames him for the fact that things went wrong with Wendy. And then Blendin freaks out and then tries to escape with his time traveling device, but doesn't really work. He only goes back a couple seconds and then comes back to the present and then confesses that he's a time traveler. And then there's also a bunch of different Easter eggs. Blendin kind of has this camouflaging suit, but it keeps malfunctioning. And we actually see different Easter eggs from future episodes. We see the arcade from Fight Fighters, which is a future episode, and we see the dinosaurs in a cave from Land Before Swine, which we'll get into later on. And he's trying to look around for different anomalies, but he can't really find it. And Dipper kind of sees one of his time traveling devices, which is a time traveling tape measure, and he tries to trick Blendin to take off his belt so that he can grab the time traveling tape in order to kind of go back in time and kind of redo the time of trying to impress Wendy and kind of get her back. So Blendin kind of goes into one of the rides, take off his belt, and then Dipper takes the time traveling tape, kind of goes back in time and tries to impress Wendy again with the ball toss, but then things go wrong again. And then, as the episode goes on, he tries to continue to try to impress Wendy, but then things continue to go wrong more and more. And then Dipper realizes that there's kind of this unforeseen variable, which is Mabel getting Waddles. And then eventually Dipper wins the ball toss, win the prize for Wendy, and then kind of get revenge on Robbie. But then that leaves Pacifica to win Waddles, and then Mabel is heartbroken. And then the twins get into an argument about using the time traveling tape measure. And then we have this whole montage of them kind of going through time and everything like that, and messing things up and rewriting history and creating all these different anomalies, which kind of sets up the reason why Blendin was sent back in time to fix all these different anomalies and everything like that. And then we also get an Easter egg during the whole montage that Dipper and Mabel go on of a mysterious figure kind of popping his head out of the Mystery Shack years ago where there's snow falling and everything, which kind of looks like a young Grunkle Stan, but I think that might be somebody else. So we'll definitely get to the identity of that character later down the line, but I think that was a really fun Easter egg. And then Alex Hirsch actually told Jason Ritter, the voice of Dipper, that in this frame is the biggest secret of Gravity Falls, and he didn't realize that it was actually the character who was popping out. But yeah, we'll definitely get into that identity later down the line. But yeah, I thought that was really funny for sure. And then we have another montage of Dipper using the time traveling tape. Mabel feels really bad and starts hitting her head on a totem pole, and then Dipper kind of waves it off and says that she'll get over it in a day or so. So he uses the time traveling tape to go forward a day, but then he sees that she's still miserable, so then he goes forward a week, but the same thing happens again. And And then he goes forward a month and sees that she's still miserable. And then now she's kind of like an attraction for the Mystery Shack. So then he goes back to the present, feels bad, and then decides to kind of use the tape measure to go back in time, lose the ball toss, have everything kind of go back to normal. When he gets hit in the eye again, Robbie comes to her rescue and then asks her out. So then Dipper kind of has to sacrifice for his sister. And then, Mabel is able to win Waddles. And then we kind of get the whole lesson after that. And we also get introduced to a couple other characters, Dolph and Lundgren, who are kind of like the time cops in a way, to kind of take Blendon away and kind of give him his sentence and whatnot. And, obviously Dolph and Lundgren are a play on the name Dolph Lundgren, the actor from like Universal Soldier and Rocky IV and everything, kind of like being that reference. So I think that was really fun. And we also get established Blendon Blandon swearing his vengeance on Dipper and Mabel, which will definitely get brought up in future episodes for sure. And we also finally see Time Baby properly giving Blendon his sentence and everything like that. He's kind of like this big baby with this big deep voice, which is also distracted by keys like an actual baby. So I think that's fun. And then we get a cool Easter egg at the end where we kind of revisit all those different moments that Blendon had in the first couple episodes of like trying to find the different anomalies and everything like that. So kind of tie that all in. We also get a cryptogram at the end, which translates to not H.G. Wells approved, which is a reference to the book by H.G. Wells called The Time Machine, which is a story about time travel, which is obviously the theme of this episode. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, overall, really fun episode. Lots of great Easter eggs, lots of setup for future events of the series, and a lot of like tie-in to, past events, and good connecting of the dots of like stuff that we saw earlier in the series and what we'll be seeing later down the line.